All set? Okay. Mr. Barton? Set?
I'm ready.
Okay. Mr. Carter?
I'm sorry.
This is an update from last week's board meeting over Devil's Backbone. The board had asked us to sort of update the previous work on the possibility of potential for a joint health department GS facility. So we asked architectural partners who presented some information last week about this to work on that as quickly as possible, which they're done. So this is the county's, the economic development authority's Cali Hill property. It's about 17 acres. And this is a rendering of potential for a joint facility to be constructed over there. That would take about, I'm talking to Mark Smith this morning, about 4.2 acres of the property. Both facilities are at 6,500 square feet, 110 parking spaces. So that's what they came up with. We did speak to Dr. Bonds this morning, came here, Amanda and I. Yeah, I'll show you some more in a second. The health department, the state's Department of General Services, their division of real estate services is working. And so I think the board is aware of the Heritage Center and the possibility of locating the health department office at the Heritage Center. Dr. Bond said, we saw the footprint this morning from preliminary plans. The Heritage Center's architect has presented to the building department. So they're showing 4,200 square foot footprint on the long hallway. As you enter the Heritage Center, you take a left-hand turn. It's about 4,200 square feet either side of the hallway towards the southern end of the building. So potentially, the health department here could be smaller. Dr. Bond said 4,200 square feet seemed to be adequate. And also in discussing with Dr. Bonds, this is what architecture did just real quick as we had requested, but talking to her, she said they could potentially share a kitchen, conference rooms, etc. So speculatively, it's possible that this parking could go away, this is enough, and this overall footprint could be reduced because, as you'll see, this is how it would line up office-wise. And this was done probably from Thursday till this morning by architectural partners. So pretty quickly. Single-story building. Here's some photos of similar facilities architectural partners has done, just to give the board an idea of what this facility could look like. And this is their updated cost estimate as of about 11 o'clock this morning. So all costs included: architectural and engineering services, furniture, fixture, and equipment, site grading, et cetera, 4.418 million. Instead, potentially the board wanted to move forward with this. We could scale that back somewhat. This is a timeline for how quickly it could be constructed. So if you could start pretty soon, they could potentially be in the building next October if all things work out.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, also spoke to Roland Coots this morning about it. And based on the presentations that he did last week, if the board recalls, you're right within a comfortability, sort of say, if you got 18 million, then you could extend it beyond that, as you heard several times that 18 million. So if you decided to go forward with this, you'd be within that 18 million ability you have now.
And that 18 million, that's before the state's contribution.
Right, that's just the county's ability as presented last week without any increase in the real estate tax or any additional pennies added to the tax base, for example.
A facility like this would have how much state contribution?
That's to be determined. Dr. Bonds noted that, I don't think she wanted to quote it on this though. Right now, the negotiations with the Heritage Center may be $20 a square foot. So that was about 84,000. She mentioned about 100,000 annual costs. So 60-40, state could potentially, at that facility, 60,000, county would pay 40,000. You know, this could be negotiated based on the square foot cost of the county. We've been talking again, or finally with the new Department of Real Estate Services coordinator took over for Melissa Denison, who we worked with for a long time when Melissa retired. And it's taken us a while to get her to get back to actually contact us. And we just had our initial discussions with her and didn't really glean much new information. This is really, and this hasn't been presented to DRES yet either. You know, we wanted to share it with the board first. So, you know, if you scale it back to somewhere about, if you could, 3.5 million, depending on the square foot lease cost between the county, let's just say hypothetically, you could, 3.5 million, it would be 300,000 or 400,000 a year. You might get 100, 150 between the county and the Health Department, and Quincy from Department of General Services, Department of Social Services. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we've averaged about 60 to 65,000 in income from DSS for services we provide to that office. One thing that would probably go away would be the lease payment we pay for the property where the offices are currently located, because that's, the county doesn't own that. And I think that is 8,018. Yeah, so taking that lease amount off, you could expect maybe about 54,000 annually from DSS locally at 100,000. So you could offset whatever the total cost is annually of debt service by about 150,000.
Gotcha.
There's a couple of factors involved here. The Department of Social Services offices could be paired with something else like planning or recreation, et cetera. And one of the things we have going on here is community involvement. The community has really got involved in trying to place the health department at the Heritage Center, which would have enormous benefits to that community. It also has community involvement, and I believe it would be cheaper to, at this point, and probably could be done sooner, although the Department of Social Service building must be done, to really, when you balance out the benefits, the costs and the benefits, to believe that the health department would be better at the Heritage Center.
We were just asked to bring this back.
Excuse me?
The staff was just asked last week to bring this back.
I know
So
that.
that's what we're doing.
And I appreciate that, and it was done quickly.
One of
But
the,
it's not a decision. I hate to be putting off the decision on the health department. Because we have a time frame that's been set for us.
right, so the time frame for the health department to remain at the Blue Ridge Medical Center is December of 2022. So about a year from today. for them to remain there. In talking to the county's building official about these plans that have been preliminary submitted by the architect for the Millennium Group or the Heritage Center, Chuck has indicated, and I'm not trying to present this as an issue, but it's just something that he has to work through. If it goes to the Heritage Center, the use group for that building will change, and it will potentially require the building to be sprinkled, fire doors, much more extensive work than what they presented today. So that cost could go up, whatever their cost is. That's to be determined. He hasn't really looked at those drawings. He sent them to us today to look at, just so we can give an idea where the health department would be located. But it's something that he's also related to me, that because the use group will change building code wise, the cost of their construction can also go up, potentially significantly.
With the rehab too.
And I don't know what those costs are, of course, we're not privy to that. But we were asked to present this, and this is sort of where we are. I do think, in talking to Dr. Bonds, that the health department doesn't need to be this large. So you could probably scale back that $4.4 million cost.
Well, I think one thing is for certain is we need to make a move for social services. They're definitely suffering in their current situation and the needs that they have. And the health department does have the timeline that we've backed up several years. I mean, I've always appreciated the Heritage Center, and as we mentioned community, I want to support the Heritage Center even more. And I think we did so in recent months with the $50,000 contribution to the roof. And I'd be open to supporting more and how we can assist them in rehabilitating and bringing that community center back to life. I do know that as we've talked to many other folks that, the health department needs to be in Livingston, in my mind. It is my hope that, have they said, if we said we're going to authorize this, that they would be moved there?
I think that's a yes for sure, but I can't assure the board.
Sure.
The decision is not the health department's, it's the state's Department of Real Estate Services, which is a subset of the Department of General Services.
Right.
Because of the lease work for the state.
Yeah. And, I guess I was trying to do some rough math real quick, and, they're looking at trying to get the health department to contribute $20 a square foot for, is it 4,000 square feet? Something like that. If the Heritage Center came here today and asked for that $20 a square foot to rehabilitate that 4,000 square feet, I would be supportive of it as a board of supervisor. And I think we could do that. We could do both. Get the health department in the center over here and help them rehabilitate with that $80,000. I just think it would better serve the community, at least here being centrally located, and it would also benefit the town of Livingston, having a more centralized workforce in the town, respectively. So, that's where I would be supportive. And I'd be curious, Mr. Chairman, I don't know what we need to do, but if other thoughts of the board.
I don't disagree with what you had to say, Mr. Rutherford, but as soon as that meeting was over last week, I became really concerned about the decision to move forward on this proposal because I'm aware of the time and energy and financial investment and determination that the Heritage Center and Millennium Group have put forward on behalf of the county to provide a home for the health department. And I was really concerned that just the proposal, just to say, let's go forward with the estimates here, sent a message, and that message was one that didn't really, I think, and I personally didn't really consider at the time we approved it, what kind of a message that sends to the community. When the community steps forward to provide something that the county has not, then I believe that it's an important function of the county to work in conjunction with and supportive of the community centers, the efforts that the community is making, especially one as significant as housing something that serves the entire county. And I was pretty distraught about it. I was so distraught that I quickly looked up to see how could something like this be reconsidered. And of course, it had already gone forward, and so that wasn't an option open to us. But, the county said, the county has more ability than community groups do to set the tone for the community. And if the county sends a message, whatever it is, that that it's not at least appreciative of, if not supportive of, the work that the community groups are doing on behalf of the county, then that's a bad message and a problem. I think the county could be more proactive at working with community groups. I think community groups have lots to offer the county. The county has lots of support that it can do because we have to do these things together. And as much as I agree with what was said at that meeting and with what Mr. Rutherford said and the needs that we have, I'm very concerned that if we were to go forward with something like this, that it was not with consideration and respect for the work that the community's been doing on this.
So if I may, can I make a couple comments? So just to make sure that I reiterate this isn't something the county staff just worked on as of last week. We worked on this for over 2 years. The board's just never given direction on if you want to do it or not. And again, this isn't for me to decide, it's for the board to decide. Is it really a question of serving the interest of the community center or serving the interest of the county in total? Because if you put it down on the far south, and I'm fine if you do it, but if you put it on the far south end of the county, it doesn't really serve someone like me who lives in Afton. It's a pretty long distance to go.
Mr. Reed, and I understand this community aspect, and that's why I echoed my support to contributing to their intentions to, build up that community center. It's had a substantial role in that community, especially. They've had the opportunity to do something the last 2 years, cut a deal with the health department while we considered and waited till we got the capital improvements. Here we are, now that we've learned our capabilities and what we need to do, we have dire needs for the social services and the health department. And, with us and our ability, we can get that started tomorrow, and going ahead, do an RFP, correct? And start going out to bid and get specs and reduce. And, this is not, any move with this capital project is not an anti-heritage center. It is pro. I want to support both, and I want to do the best diligence I can also for my constituents who live in Skyland, who don't have ease of access to the health department and even other access to like Region 10 and how we can support those communities. It's more than just one, it's the whole thing. That's where I'm at. And I welcome the Heritage Center to come before us and so they can ask us how we can help them. I'm right there. So,
But I'd like to contribute myself too. That 4.4 million, the board needs to have that next work session on capital improvements because 4.4, whatever the cost is, part of that ability that was reported to you last week in relation to other capital improvements. How far are you going to go? If you subtract 18 from 4, okay, you've got 14 ability. You can do a lot more than that if you decide to do so. But it's what are the board's priorities? That's the point I'm trying to make.
Are there-
And Ernie, I think it'd be terrible for my people. I mean, you're gonna go from one extreme part of the county to the totally opposite end of the county.
The tip of Afton. Um,
No, it would mean a lot to them, but I mean, we can't do something based on what would benefit them.
The health department is basically located that area now. I mean, it's, how many miles? 3 miles from where the health center is now. That's all it is.
That was moved on a temporary basis because it was something was available at the time.
And people do need to go to the health center, and that is a perfectly legitimate, idea that it can be centrally located. But there is another benefit accrued from having a participation in the county by a number of people that were sought to meet the needs of the county. And it strikes me as remarkable that people are very much concerned with the movement of people coming from distances to go to the health center when they would go once or twice. When we talk about moving children every single day from Acton down to Ty River, to have some sort of consolidation in the schools to save money makes me suspicious of the motives that we have for what we want. Yeah, it's legitimate. You want to have that health center in the middle, but how often do people use it, and how much difficulty would it be for people to go to that health center? And, I don't know, maybe it's up to the state to decide.
Well, that's the thing, the state will decide, not the county. This
Yeah,
would just
ultimately.
put the county as an additional consideration. The board doesn't decide, the Department of Real Estate Services does.
I would maintain, with all due respects to Mr. Harvey and the district that he serves, that the south part of the county is not served could use the boost, could use support, could use an office, could use something that brings people to that part of the county. When we look at the entire county, I think that whether the county's making investments, whether the community's making investments, we really have to be extremely careful that we don't frustrate the efforts of those who have taken it upon themselves to provide something very necessary for the people of the county. Again, in a perfect world, you don't have the kind of conflicts between equity and fairness and things like that, both socially and economically. But in our county, there's no question, just as if what's important for Mr. Harvey, what's important for Mr. Rutherford and Livingston area, what's important for the county in terms of central location, there's also needs in the south part of the county. And I'll defer to Mr. Parr to speak to his opinion on these things. But for me, I think that having the health department in the south part of the county, something that brings people to the south part of the county, that helps bring a community together, is a good thing.
But, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I know we like to use that, but if that's the case, then I'd like this to go to Skylar. If we're going to talk about, equity and what communities have lost and suffered, that community has a lot of needs too. And I also understand the feasibility of geography, and I'm going to get off my soapbox, but Skylar needs it just as bad. That's a reality.
Mr. Park?
So I've been sitting back waiting, and for anybody that doesn't know, this facility is in my district. We keep saying south, it's actually in the west district, on the south end of the county. This location was good enough when the building was built to serve a specific purpose for all citizens of Nelson County. If the location was good enough when it was built, it's good enough now. On the flip side of that, the very first meeting we had as a board member, Skip, you were still at the hospital, you had just had your stroke. We had a meeting in January, Ernie and I were sitting over there, and I don't know if you remember, this topic was on that board agenda, that very first meeting in January. And it was a $3 million facility at that time. And Ernie and I looked at each other and I said, why the hell would we not do this? It's $3 million, why would we not do this? And then we heard about the proposal from the Heritage Center and all that. Throughout all this discussion, one of the things that we've thrown out there and we've wondered, and no one has ever said, is what does the health department want? Do they want to be down there? Do they have a dog in this fight? Do they have any opinion on that? But I've never heard what they want. Do they want to be there? Do they not want to be there? Do they want to be at the stoplight? Where do they want to be? I think I would like to hear that information at some point. At the same time, I've asked the Heritage Center twice to provide, they said they've had estimates on cost for renovating that facility. I've yet to receive those, that information, and I think it's been a year since that $600,000 figure was thrown out. We were saying 1.2, they were saying 600,000. We've never seen anything on exactly what would be going on. I don't know who makes this decision. I think this is a great looking facility. I think it opens up opportunities. It's a good location. I also think we have a group of individuals who are committed to making something like this work. It could be the, what's it in the strip mall, the main building in a strip mall. Your anchor, thank you. It could be the anchor for that facility to help it, springboard off into other things. You get that activity. You've got the gym now. You have this. So I'm not saying which way I'm leaning. I've got frustrations on both sides, and I think we need to sit back. Waiting a month isn't going to hurt us. I would like to sit back and wait a month. Give the Millennium Group, the Heritage Center, an opportunity, and it's time to jump or get off the pot. They either need to make a decision and make a presentation and say, we're going to do something, we're going to have it done by November of next year, or we can't get it done, and we're going to let the county take it on and move forward with something like this. But, that's where I am. I think today we need to say, okay, everybody, let's get it together. The county's got this. What do you all have?
Right.
That's where I am. But I do support the idea. Obviously, it's in my district. I think it will be a great benefit. But we got to stop dragging our feet. The Blue Ridge is not going to keep moving that goalpost for us.
What I would suggest.
And you have Walking Mountain Museum, so I don't.
Which could use a lot of support, of course. I guess I need to come back with that next week. What I would suggest we do, since we have this, the plan is set in stone, and we want to give the due diligence for the Heritage Center, let's put it on the agenda for January and have the Millennium Group present or some level, or at least provide you the plans at that time and prior for us to review. And then that way we have some kind of idea, and let's try to get the health department present if they're willing to be in person.
We need to provide some funds for them to group and seek this information that we want. They need to have access to the right people and stuff to.
I thought they'd been working on this for a year and a half, or almost two, well, not quite 2 years, but almost 2 years, because in January, it'd be 2 years we talked about it. So I think in March, it's been a couple of years that they've been.
I know
Working
that
towards
who's been
that.
working on it for them.
They had, I think it's, Mr. Rose might be able to
They have
mention,
an architect.
Moore's Architect.
Mhm.
Does it sound familiar?
Right.
I think it's Moore's Architect, and they're fully capable of doing a cost estimate and design work. I've seen their work before. They would be just similar to Architectural Partners, if that is who's doing it. I believe if they have any questions for architectural partners, you know, whatever that might be.
But I will say, I think, I understand the geography, but I think using that as a determining factor is insulting to an entire generation.
Mr. Reed, is that appropriate to put it on next month's agenda?
Um, uh, I think it would be great. I feel like the Heritage Center needs more than an ultimatum to show up in a month with certain information. I don't know what that is, but at the very least, I would like to express a willingness to work with them on the project that they're working on. You know, they have done their project pretty much, with the exception of the money that we mentioned that they got. They've been working on this initiative really on their own and on their own nickel. And I'm really, and I want to express how grateful I am to them for doing that and for stepping up, and how valuable that is to the community. And I'd like to be able to welcome them at the next meeting to give us an update.
Yeah, sure.
We would have to ask them, they may be constrained in how much they can relate to the board because of negotiations with DRES.
Correct.
It's hard to say.
Correct.
We do have the plans they submitted. We can send this to the board electronically.
Perfect.
I think it would be, I think we should, I think we should give the Millennium Group tell them that we're open to talking with them, at the next meeting, but not have, a decision on the agenda. I think that we're, for all we know, they could be, at the 11th and a half hour in terms of their negotiations with the.
Well, if that's the case, the health department, have they indicated that to you yet?
What Dr. Bond said this morning is she's not directly, she's indirectly involved. It's this state agency that I keep referring to, Department of Real Estate Services. They are in discussions about, at least that's what Dr. Bond said, but she said this morning as well that this change in use group could impact that as well, because whatever they presented cost-wise may be impacted by whatever additional costs they may have to incur to address that change in use group. I mean, I don't know, but we can have Chuck look at that and give them comments, of course.
All right, yeah.
At the end of the day, we obviously, Ernie, I agree, we want to give and extend respect and opportunity to the Heritage Center, but our ultimate responsibility is to the citizens of the county. And, it's time to act one way or the other.
Yeah.
I'm not saying which way to go. I'm just saying we've got to have something in place by December of next year. And that's the ultimate responsibility that we have. And it would be great if we could have our cake and eat it too, and have this wonderful repurposed facility in a section of the county that could use it. But at the end of the day, we need a facility that everybody can use somewhere.
Yeah. What I would suggest the board could do is we begin action with the social services piece portion with the potential addition of the health department side. Is that appropriate?
And we can have our architectural partners start
Say that again.
doing that.
Proceeding with the social services portion with a contingency of adding the health department in the event we change that. That way we're doing a due diligence with the social services.
So design it as a potential process.
Two-phase thing. That way we're not, I don't want to hold up social services to whatever we have to deal with the health department. And I don't think that's appropriate for them. They don't need to have to be stuck in that. I think it would be easy enough with this simple floor plan that if we find out in January that we also need to include the health department, that we can make that addition on the spot.
I would not be in favor of that. The reason being that it's the responsibility of the state to decide what they're going to do. And in some in some respects,
Social services?
no, the health department.
Yeah, I'm saying we leave that alone.
Well, I understand, but what I'm saying is it's been, the ball has been in their court and they have not yet, really taken the initiative, in my perspective, to get that job done since it started. And I really would like to, the Department of Social Services, whether we decide to move forward on their construction or not, I think is certainly something that we should do. But I don't want to tie those two together in any way, even if it's just,
Isn't that what I just said?
well,
Yes, I'm saying, move forward with social services, get it done, they need a facility. If in some rare event that we need to, or potential, that we need to add the health department, it's gonna be easy enough. I'm just saying, we'll just put that out there to them, just saying, just be mindful, this could change, unlikely, but just FYI. And then we're,
You're talking about automatically putting the,
no,
social services out there?
yes. The social services location over there, yes.
Yeah.
And then if we have to in January to add on the health department, we can do it, it's easy enough.
Maybe just wait till January and see what we report back.
And then wait again another month?
It's just a month.
All right.
Because we'll talk some more to the DRS coordinator, see where the discussions with the Heritage Center are, share this information, or ask Chuck Miller to look at their plans and give them more comments, which he hasn't given them any comments about it because they didn't apply for a building permit. They just gave them
Yeah.
the plans to look at.
Can we have architectural partners also review it?
Well, next to the board, the Architects and Partners was at one point, working with the Heritage Center, and their cost estimates weren't well received, so they got rid of them and hired this other firm. And as you said, the costs from the firm that is currently working with the Heritage Center are like 1/2 of what Architectural Partners projected. So, I mean, they can look at the plans, but probably better for Chuck to look at.
All right, just skip a check, look at it.
But to me, we've done a terrible job. If this is what we were intending on doing back when we did something with this.
Yeah.
We should not have lent it out to a group that is now going to dictate to us what we're going to do. And the location is 2 miles from Amherst County. And I think at least the health department needs to be in the town of Livingston. Because you have a lot of people that, they can come do county business and the health department all at the same time.
Mr. Carter, I think what you articulated is what we need for our next meeting.
What was it, you want to wait so we're gonna wait another month?
Well, then we'll reach out to the DRS coordinator then tomorrow and ask them to give us information. We'll share it with the board immediately.
Certainly,
If need be, we can call you back in session.
sure. I would suggest we do that, and,
And reach out to the Millennium Group.
sure. And let's ask them to attend our January meeting.
Where we, the county staff, get into a bottleneck with these discussions is the state people don't want to be as open as they could be. And they'll tell us that this is negotiations and you're not privy to that information. So,
Sure. Well, tell them we're looking to make a decision in January, hopefully. All right, Angie, we'll get you a building soon, maybe next month.
yeah, this, as we were discussing, it's just DSS, you can probably get rid of that parking, reduce this parking and reduce that lane.
I'm sorry?
Slave elections.
It's out of order.
Yeah,
We'll just save it.
Yeah.
We can talk to her after this.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, you have the rest of your report.
Right? I was gonna say that.
let's go.
I'll do real quick, well, a couple of things. On the status of coronavirus, the information I reported is from yesterday, which was information from December 10th published on the Health Department's website. So as of the 10th, there was 6 new cases of the virus in the county, and a 7-day average of 8 cases. Well, I must have had another one out. But as of yesterday, there were 3 cases, new cases in the county, and an average 7-day average of 9 cases. So, and looking at the graph of cases in the county on the state's website, our line had been pretty flat for the last month. It sort of ticked up a bit. And the highest being about 14 cases on December the 7th, I believe. So not significant, but still not, of course, going away. And the county still is, as a Commonwealth, an area of high transmission, and the CDC recommendation is to wear masks indoors in public settings, et cetera. General real estate assessment, Juan Lorraine's, I think the board is aware, it's currently conducting its assessor hearings, and they should be submitting their certified report by the end of this month. And then the board will need to appoint the Board of Equalization. We're working on that. Hopefully that can be done in January. The board will sit for its hearings and make its report to the board sometime next spring. Then the board, as someone mentioned earlier in the public comments, you'll be obligated by state law to look at what it takes to equalize the tax rate through a public hearing process, and it has to be done. Tax rate can then be set whatever the board determines for the next fiscal year. Then we did look, as the board had requested from last month, at compensation studies. So I reached out to the Institute of Government, which the county is a member of, and we've got information on 4 counties that's shown in my report, and the costs associated with their studies. So then we reached out to Management Advisory Group International, which is working with Albemarle-Charlottesville Regional Jail currently on a compensation study. And the regional jail is doing that through Frederick County's cooperative procurement agreement, which Nelson could also utilize if the board wanted to move forward with the compensation study. So we contacted MAGI and asked for a proposal. They gave us one yesterday. The cost was $24,500. They then submitted some questions. So we responded to those questions, and speculatively, I think we still would be with an updated estimate somewhere between 24.5 and probably 30,000 or less to do compensation study, looking at our job descriptions and potentially a factor on how to adjust compensation levels on an annual basis. So if the board wanted to move forward with that, we're positioned to do so. For a cost, we think somewhere 30,000 or less. And it would include county direct employees, constitutional officers, and an option Department of Social Services. We're waiting on the new cost estimate. And as the board requested, I did send a letter instead of to the compensation board. I copied them, the secretary, Robert DeSocia, sent it to Governor Northam, expressing the county's concerns with the levels of state-funded local state employees. And I sent the board that when it was drafted about 3 or so weeks ago.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Carter? We have board reports. Mr. Harvey, do you have any reports? Mr. Barton?
At the meeting of the Social Services Board, Ms. Rose commented that that she thinks that drug court would be a really good idea. That from what she knows, has had a very positive impact other than that, yeah.
Okay.
How are you doing? Great. So, PDC, we've had some great discussions. Looking forward to continuing the affordable housing conversation and planning a conference this coming fall. I hope this board would love to participate and learn about some of the opportunities. We're going to be talking about how to implement affordable housing in the comp plan, which can go into zoning and so many other options, and how we as boards can take more of an initiative on the lack of affordable housing in the rural context. Did that, was absent from the Water Authority meeting and went to the Firefly event yesterday, which announced the successful VATI grant application. I believe our region, and I'm proud to chair that committee of Thomas and Jefferson Planning District Commission, where we were able and successfully to solicit close to $80 million, which that number might go up some if some of the challenges fail, in getting the region, greater Charlottesville area, fiber internet in the next couple of years. Beyond that, that's all I got, Mr. Chairman, at this moment I can think of.
Thank you.
On that note, I think they were going across the railroad today.
They were going across as of today. I saw that. I was stopped at the track. So that's a very monumental move because they've been trying to do that for at least a year. So I think they finally did. They put both poles up, and I'm excited to drive down there.
Railroad.
So anybody watching on the internet, that means people on the other side crossing the tracks from Craigtown Road, now 56, might be getting internet soon. So, and I saw Firefly trucks in your area hooking people up at the house on Craigtown Road.
Thank you. Mr. Parr?
Have nothing.
Okay. Appointments? We don't have an applicant yet for the Java Council, is that true?
We do not.
We do not.
That will expire at the end of this month.
Okay.
So we are seeking an applicant. We have advertised both in the paper and on the website.
Yeah.
We reposted it on the website.
Yep. I'm working on it too.
That's great.
Board of Equalization, when do we have to have that completed by? Can we do that in January? Because I will say, judging by as much backlash as I got, and I sent everybody the application, we only got 3. So folks, tell your friends, please join the Board of Equalization if you want to have a voice in the conversation of reassessments and values and what you might feel. Just FYI, can we make that decision in January?
I would suggest waiting.
Yeah. What is the max number?
More applications.
I heard 5. 5.
Minimum of 3, maximum of 5. We do have some, we have to have 30% of our members of that board need to be commercial or residential real estate appraisers, other real estate professionals, builders, developers. So we do need to keep that in mind as we are selecting individuals to apply.
Are there any people that were part of the Board of Equalization that have reapplied?
Yes, Mr. Nelson, Thomas Nelson, he was here earlier. He has reapplied.
Okay.
So he did serve in 2018 on the board then.
At what capacity? What was his,
He was a member,
Of the Board of Equalization.
I know that, but what
yeah,
category did he fit in?
He, as far as his background, no, he did not. He was part of the other 70% that could serve. But he does have experience, so.
Yeah.
and we did reach out to all the previous board members, but so far.
Okay, we will look for that and have a better.
Find your worst enemy.
Okay, correspondence?
Not as reassessments, I know there's a lot of folks who are upset about that. I've received, I can't tell you how much correspondence, but as I've echoed before, the tax rate ain't it yet, and we might equalize all the way. Still up in the air, and it doesn't take place till next budget year. So those who are listening, keep that in mind.
Directives?
Yes. Curtis Sheets had provided some information as it related to the EMS needs of today. I'm not sure if you've seen the recent movement. I wanted to get an update and see if we could put this on the agenda in January to bring up discussion of some of the difficulties that they're struggling with on the EMS level and some of the potential improvements that might be needed, as well as equipment potentials. Steve, I know you've received some correspondence with that. Can you echo anything or what you've seen?
Yeah, I would suggest the board not take this up in January, but wait to the budget, and then work on it there. You might get reports from Curtis in January, but among other things, they have suggested, they being the pay program, WPOA,
Sure.
county contracts with, increasing the workforce by a number of professionals, increasing their compensation. They've also are in the process of constructing a fire training facility over in Ellis Ford.
They're one of the couple now.
And one of the things that we just saw either last week or yesterday, I think it was late last week, was another summary of that and a request for the county to provide a trailer as a training facility in conjunction with WPOA's construction of this new facility. It's like a 2 or 3 story building that firefighters could be trained at. Similar facilities, I think maybe Point of Roanoke County. I think that Curtis said there's one that they own in either Appomattox or Buckingham County, which I wasn't aware of. But they've asked for a number of considerations, they being WPOA. One of the things we want to bring forward either next month or relatively soon is consideration of increasing the billing fees, because the billing company the county utilizes, EMS billing, it's recommended that those fees be increased, and we looked at it. I don't think that they've been discussed or considered for about 7 years. Is that right? 7 or 9?
I think it was 2012.
Yeah, 9 years. So EMS billing has recommended either increasing Medicare fees by 130 or 150%, basically just to keep us more current. Even at 150%, just our preliminary review, that might generate about $200,000, but it still wouldn't be sufficient to offset the total operational increase cost of the program, which will continue to go up. So a lot of budgetary considerations that WPOA has presented. We've been trying to determine the need for more personnel, salaries, things like that. One of the things that was at least suggested was, and I certainly don't want to overstate this, that the volunteer agencies would stop and they would just become a part of the pay program. I think I recall that correctly. So, a lot to consider.
You would call what now? What was that last?
One email that Mr. Sheets sent probably 2 months ago was suggestion that from the EMS Council that potentially, if I recall correctly, the other volunteer EMS agencies might give up their licenses and fall into volunteering as a part of WPOA. Now, I haven't heard that from any of the agencies, but that's what Mr. Sheets suggested.
I would not support that at all, and I haven't heard one word from any of this stuff.
And I don't want to overstate that,
And
of
as
course.
being the representative for that part of it, I haven't talked to anybody.
But all the things that he's presented have cost implications. Cost implications as far as increases in overall costs.
Because that was a threat at the very beginning that the volunteers had is if you come in with unagreeing being a pay department, in a matter of time, they're going to want to take it all over.
as I said, in one of the previous emails he sent a couple months ago, that was one of the inferences in the email.
Sure.
So I'm certainly not averse, of
Yeah.
course, to the board's decision to have him come in January, but it might be better, or I can just suggest that we work with Curtis and WPOA and put all these things together.
For the budget session.
Yeah, budget session and
That's fine.
information.
That's appropriate.
You get way in advance of that, of course.
Can you communicate that with Mr. Sheets?
Yeah, of course.
I think,
Hadn't we talked, is either October or November, we talked about adding another 24-hour shift?
That's what we've been trying to analyze, and I'm waiting for our emergency services coordinator to, there's, looking at our database on call volumes and when those calls, what's the frequency of calls? Is it on weekends? Is it at night? Is it during the day? To try to determine if that's, predicts that we do need more people or we don't need more people.
And that's something he's actively working on? Any idea when we might hear something on that?
Hopefully soon, because it's been a while. And
It has been a while.
He should be giving that to us.
Yeah.
Like, I'll follow up with him, of course. We actually discussed that yesterday about where he is with that, so.
I have a suggestion for that job description. Maybe include an expectation for a personal visit of the local departments, maybe at like board meetings, at least once a year, of like the local fire departments. It'd be nice to have a visible show of support from that position.
Yeah, and I certainly don't want to strongly suggest that Mr. Sheets was strongly suggesting eliminating all the volunteer agencies, but as I recall from his email, there was at least a suggestion of that as a consideration. Yeah, I certainly don't want to villainize him in any way. He's been a real asset, of course.
we're gonna have no other directives, but if we could just communicate that about the budget section.
Of course.
Anyone else have directives to bring to the board? Okay. Any other business, Mr. Carter?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to continue.
Continue,
Yes.
adjourn and continue.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue this meeting to 7 o'clock.
Second.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Park?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
I have to go to the bank. So I will meet you all wherever